Have you ever looked at a rock and wondered, is this really just a product of wind, water, and time? Or is there a greater secret, an ancient, untold story, etched deep in every vein, every crevice? Our Earth is a patient artist. For millions of years, the planet has painstakingly sculpted rock structures that make anyone look up, fall silent in amazement, and then wonder, why are they there? 1. The wave. The frozen wave of the Red Desert. In the dry border between Arizona and Utah, where wind and sand are the only companions, a scene appears like a mirage. Red-orange waves rolling in the desert. Not water, not fire, but stone. A flowing stream of stone that seems to burst into an endless moment, frozen in time. It is the wave. A motionless wave, molded more than 190 million years ago from ancient sand and the breath of wind. Not everyone can set foot here. Every day, only 20 people are granted permission to enter this magical land. Each step is a silent pilgrimage, as if you are entering the dream of the earth. The orange, red, and yellow marble bands roll like abstract paintings, like forgotten memories of a once young planet, now quietly recounting the past in shape. When the sun shines down, everything seems lit from within. The wave's surface shimmers like moving water, despite being completely still. This is more than geology. This is a visual symphony, where rock becomes waves, wind becomes brushstrokes, and time is frozen in perfect form. If you are lucky enough to be there, close your eyes for a moment. You will hear the wind of prehistoric times. See the rock layers that tell the story of the age of dinosaurs, of the sea that has receded, leaving its shadow behind. The wave is not simply a beautiful scene. It is a moment of eternity caught in a land that changes every hour. 2. Wungowungorant, the stone maze breathing under the red sun of Australia. Deep in the heart of Western Australia's Uluru National Park lies a maze of rocks that don't just stand still. They seem to breathe under the blazing sun. Wungowungorant, as strangely named as it is shaped, is neither a mountain nor a valley. From above, it resembles the city of a long-lost race of giants, with one circular tower after another stretching out to the horizon, weaving a secret map of time. These rocks, which are more than 350 million years old, are made of limestone eroded by wind, rain, temperature, and time. But the strangest thing is their color. Alternating black and orange stripes appear like ancient codes engraved on the stone skin. Orange, traces of oxidized iron. Black, algae and minerals accumulated over hundreds of centuries. Nature not only built, but also painted on the stone wall, turning it into a living picture that changes color according to the time of day. There is a little-known fact. Wungowungorant was once a secret. Until the 1980s, this place existed in silence, nameless and unsuspected. It was not until a pilot flew across this desert and looked down that the world was stunned by a great masterpiece that had never been recorded. From then on, Australia's ancient rock labyrinth came to light, becoming a legendary destination for sleepwalkers in the heart of geology. To reach Wungowungorant, visitors must cross winding roads, climb giant rocks, or fly high above to admire the indescribable beauty. When the sun sets, the light reflects through each rock, making the entire mountain range glow red as if it were burning in sacred silence. There is no more rock, no more time, only the feeling that you are standing in the middle of another world, where the only language is silence and amazement. Wungowungorant does not tell its whole story. There are shapes that cannot be explained, deep grooves like the claw marks of a god. No one knows for sure whether nature created it by chance or if there is something more hidden. But one thing is certain. This place is living proof that nature is not sterile. It is an abstract painter, a transcendent architect, and a storyteller who whispers in stone. 3. Fairy Trimnitz, the petrified fairy city in the middle of the Cappadocia Plateau. If one day you set foot on the wind-blown plateau of Cappadocia, Turkey, prepare yourself for a sight beyond imagination. This place is unlike any land you have ever known. From the ground, hundreds of towering stone columns, conical like chimneys coming out of the mythical world, rise up into the deep blue sky. That is Fairy Trimnitz, the kingdom of fairy chimneys, where stone becomes architecture and time becomes the storyteller. Millions of years ago, violent volcanic eruptions blanketed the area in thick layers of ash and lava. As the lava cooled, it created a soft rock called tuff. Over the years, rain, wind, and water eroded the rock, leaving behind columns of rock more than 40 meters high, with harder tops that formed a natural roof. They stood tall and unbroken, as if protecting secrets buried in the rock for millennia. But Fairy Trimnitz is more than just a geological creation. It is a place where people have lived, dwelt, and dreamed. Thousands of years ago, ancient communities found shelter among these magical rocks. They carved out homes, carved caves into monasteries, and painted the walls in colors that never faded. The churches hidden deep in the rock are still there, with Byzantine frescoes recounting spiritual journeys in the sacred silence of the mountain rock. Today, Fairy Trimnitz is an eye-opening dream for anyone lucky enough to visit. You can walk among the giant stone towers, enter the caves that were once inhabited by ancient monks. Or if your heart is adventurous enough, take a hot air balloon, soar into the dawn glow, and watch this fairyland transform in the early morning light. Each stone pillar is like a giant candle, shimmering in the pale yellow of the sky, quietly lighting up a past that has never been put to sleep. Fairy Trimnitz doesn't need to say anything. It just stands there, silent, like a spirit in the desert of stone. It reminds us that, sometimes, the magic lies not in technology or modern achievements, but in the fact that nature and humans once lived together, built together, and left behind a world that only the purest imagination could reach. 4. Hoodoos, fossilized rock mushrooms in the New Mexico desert. In the desolate wasteland of Ayers Park, New Mexico, where the sun burns away every speck of dust, there is a scene that makes anyone who sees it for the first time wonder, is this really Earth? Hundreds of slender, towering stone pillars, topped with giant mushroom-sized boulders, tower against the scorching sky. They are called Hoodoos, motionless beings from the past, standing there like fossils of a world that once existed, then disappeared. Hoodoos are not the product of a whim, nor are they carved by human hands. They are the result of tens of millions of years of wear and tear, wind, rain, and relentless labor. Some 70 million years ago, this was a coastal plain where mud, sand, and volcanic rock accumulated in layers. Over time, the soft rock at the bottom was washed away faster than the hard rock above, leaving behind long, slender pillars like the tall necks of prehistoric creatures wearing heavy stone helmets on their heads. No two Hoodoos blocks are exactly alike. Some tower over 10 meters high, while others range from orange to red, from brown to yellow, as if painted by the hand of some ancient artist. As the sun sets, their shadows stretch across the cracked ground, creating a surreal picture where each stone pillar is like a character in the planet's wordless novel. Ayers Park is unlike any other popular tourist destination in the United States. There are no well-marked trails, no guardrails, no signs. It is a place for the adventurous, for those willing to sacrifice comfort for the feeling of touching something no one has ever fully understood. When you walk among the Hoodoos columns, you are not only traveling through space, but also through time. Every step is a slice of millions of years frozen in stone. There is something very quiet here, as if Hoodoos is whispering into the wind, a language that only those who know how to listen with their hearts can feel. You will feel strangely small, not because of the height of the stone, but because of its silent eternity. While people change every day, war, build, destroy, and recreate, Hoodoos still stands there, motionless, as if guarding a past memory that humanity has forgotten. Ayers Park doesn't need the fame of the Grand Canyon. Hoodoos doesn't need the spotlight. They just need people to stop, look long enough, and say to themselves, could this be the remains of another world? Once alive, once breathing, then petrified into silence? 5. Elephant Rock, the giant rock spout reaching into the Icelandic ice sea. At the end of the cold wind, where the ocean never sleeps and ice is an eternal companion, there is a small island called Heimaey, a rough gem in the Vestmannaeyjar archipelago off the coast of Iceland. And there, a figure appears amidst the raging waves. A giant elephant head, with a long trunk as if drinking water from the deep sea. That is Elephant Rock, a rock wonder that has stunned the world not because of its perfect beauty, but because of the unbelievable truth. It is a product of nature, not of human hands. From a distance, the shape of the rock resembles an elephant's head to the point of perfection. The folded ears, the long winding trunk, and the tiny wrinkles that resemble the skin of the most intelligent animal on Earth. Many people have sworn that it was carved by humans, but it wasn't. Elephant Rock was born from an ancient volcano with a basalt structure typical of Iceland. Thousands of years of erosion from frigid seas and howling winds have gradually shaped this shape, without the intervention of any human hands. The strange thing is that each time the sun slanted down on the sea, the lines on the elephant's skin became more clearly visible. The cracks eroded by salt water became vivid wrinkles. When the waves crashed against the rock, the sound echoed like the sigh of a giant creature sleeping peacefully in time. Under the golden light of the Nordic sunset, Elephant Rock looked like an ancient mythical beast, resting on the edge of the world. The trip to Elephant Rock is not for the faint-hearted. Visitors must depart from the main island of Heimaey, taking a boat across seas filled with seagulls and sheer cliffs where thousands of nesting seabirds create showers of white-winged feathers that blanket the sky. As the boat glides through the icy waves and Elephant Rock slowly emerges, it feels like stepping into a forgotten world, where time is frozen in a moment. Iceland has many natural wonders. Waterfalls like ribbons of silver, glaciers that crisscross mountains, hot springs hidden beneath the snow. But Elephant Rock is something different. It is not flashy. It is not inviting. It just stands there, silent, like a frozen memory. A living testament to how nature can create the impossible, beyond logic, beyond art, using only one tool: time. And perhaps what makes Elephant Rock so legendary is not its uncanny resemblance to an elephant, but rather that when standing before it, one cannot help but believe that something greater is watching over us. Something that existed before humans and will still be there long after we have all departed from this world. 6. Pancaroth, New Zealand coastal rock layers, along the pristine coast of Moeraki on the South Island of New Zealand, where the sea breeze blows day and night and the waves never sleep. A mysterious phenomenon has existed quietly for millions of years. Giant layers of rock stacked on top of each other like a giant 1,000-layer cake, both soft and solid, both familiar and surreal. These are the Pancaroths, dubbed the pancake rocks of the world, where nature displays the art of arrangement with incredible precision. When you stand in front of Pancaroth, you can't help but wonder, how did nature create these thin, even, perfectly stacked layers of rock that look as if someone had painstakingly crafted them? But in reality, there was no hand other than wind, water, and geology. Millions of years ago, this area was located on the bottom of the deep sea, where sediment from coral, marine life, and silt gradually compacted into thin layers of limestone. Through geological upheavals, these layers were pushed to the surface. Then millions of waves relentlessly eroded each layer, leaving the shape we see today. Each layer of rock is like a slice of time. Each crack is an ancient memory. When the tide comes in, the waves squeeze between the rocks, are compressed and shot into the air in white columns of water. It feels like Pankaroth is breathing, talking with steam and sound. The roar of the waves echoes through the cracks of the rocks, reverberating off the sheer cliffs like the deep song of the ocean rising from the earth. The beauty of Pankaroth is not limited to sunny days. At sunset, the golden sunlight shines through the rocks, reflecting off the water, creating a warm, fairy tale scene. Those who stay patiently until then will find the entire beach transformed into a stone time machine, transporting them back to an era before humans existed. The road to Pankaroth is also a poetic journey. You will pass through lush green forests, where birds chirp and the salty air of the sea begins to fill your chest. And then, as the road opens, the sea appears. White waves roaring, and Pankaroth stands there, not saying a word, just silently waving to those curious enough to come to the end of the world. Pankaroth is not a place to be seen in a hurry. It is a message from the earth to those who listen. That true beauty lies not in perfection, but in patience. That stability comes not from force, but from time. And that even stone can be softened, if loved long enough by wind and water. 7. Mushroom Rock. Petrified mushroom forest. In the heart of Europe, hidden in the Aspetiblis Nature Reserve in the Iron Gate region of the Czech Republic, there is a strange forest where trees do not grow from the ground, but from the rocks. There, giant rocks rise up like fairy mushrooms, slender trunks, large heads, and wide spreads, as if a miracle had happened in the middle of the silent forest. That is Mushroom Rock. The petrified mushroom forest, where nature not only shaped, but also breathed a soul into each rock. They are not real mushrooms, but when you first see them, anyone will blink in amazement. The large rocks look like they are wearing giant stone hats, standing upright and silent in the middle of the green forest. Some rocks are several meters high, with small legs and bulging heads, creating such a fragile balance that it seems like a strong wind could knock them over. But no, they have been standing there for millions of years. The formation of Mushroom Rock is a story of wind, water, and the incredible patience of nature. Over millennia, cold winds and ice have painstakingly eroded the softer body of the rock, leaving the hard top intact like a protective umbrella. And so, each mushroom is born, each one different, never the same. Some look like human heads, some like sea creatures, some like petrified idols. They are the eternal drafts of an artist who never stops experimenting. In particular, the Aspetiblis area is also known as a natural stone labyrinth. Narrow crevices lead you deep into the ground, where light is only flickering, where each step echoes like a call from the past. The deeper you go, the more magical the world becomes. Moss-covered rocks, the damp scent of soil and stone, and the shadows creeping through the high stone arches make you feel like you are lost in a fossilized city, where time once stopped in a mythical moment. As the sun slants, the light filters through the treetops, casting soft golden streaks on the stone mushrooms. The scene becomes surreal, as if you are no longer in the Czech Republic, but walking in a stone fairy tale. There, you are no longer a tourist, but a silent witness, walking in a world that has never been written down, that can only be felt. Mushroom Rock is not as noisy or famous as other wonders, but it is precisely that silence that makes it a sacred place. A place for those who need a moment of silence to see nature whispering. That nothing is random. That the strangest shapes are also the result of the most ancient laws. And that, no matter who you are, when standing before those petrified mushrooms, you will be as small as a speck of dust in the story that the earth is silently telling. 8. Grimham Rock, the stone creatures who guard the Yorkshire forest. In the middle of the dark forests of North Yorkshire, England, there is a place where when you set foot, you no longer know whether you are walking in reality or have stepped into a strange dream of rocks. Giant rocks, with strange and seemingly absurd shapes, are stacked on top of each other as if an invisible giant hand had placed them in that exact position and then disappeared without explanation. That is Grimham Rock, where petrified creatures have guarded the forest for millions of years. Formed some 320 million years ago, when the area was once a vast desert, Grimham Rock is the result of a spectacular marriage of time, wind, water, and ice. The softer layers of rock gradually eroded away, leaving the harder rock standing, creating unique formations. Some resemble dancing bears, some roaring eagle heads, and some grim human faces staring down into the valley. But what makes Grimham Rock so haunting is not just its unusual shape, but the way these giant boulders stand on absurdly small supports. Some of them touch the ground with only a tiny sliver of contact, as if the slightest touch would send them rolling down into the deep valley. But they still stand there, unshaken, untoppled, like immortal gatekeepers guarding the millennia-old secrets of the jungle. Grimham Rock has long been a rendezvous for wandering souls. Climbers, photographers, poets, storytellers. Because every angle reveals a different face, a different image, a different legend. The ancients believed that this place was once the haunt of the stone gods. And when night falls, the rocks come to life, walking slowly in the forest, whispering to each other in an ancient language that humans have forgotten. As the sunset turns the foliage golden and the shadows lengthen, Grimham Rock becomes a silent stage of memory. The grotesque figures are no longer sterile. They come alive like incarnations of Celtic myth, like characters stopped in the middle of a dream journey. The beauty here is not in the flashiness, but in the absolute presence of nature in a seemingly surreal form. Walking among Grimham Rock, you feel as if you are being watched. Not by people, not by wild animals, but by the rocks themselves. They seem to have eyes, memories, thoughts. They say nothing, but their silence is as heavy as 1,000 years. And then you realize, this is no longer a walk, but an encounter between people and rocks, between the present and fossil history, between the finite fragility of human life and the anonymous endurance of geology. 9. Andes, the giant rocky mountain range that embraces a lost civilization. If the Earth were a living organism, the Andes would be its oldest and most majestic backbone. Stretching for more than 7,000 kilometers along the western coast of South America, the mountain range is not just a towering chain of rocks, but an entity with a memory, a great wall of rock that holds secrets hidden by time and snow, where nature and man once created legends that have never been fully realized. Rising an average of over 4,000 meters, with snow-capped peaks, the Andes act as an impenetrable barrier between humans and the divine. In the deep valleys, the mighty Inca civilization once existed. People who knew how to stack stones without mortar, without a single gap, and how to live among the jungle and mountains as if they were born from the very soil. In places like Machu Picchu, the stone walls were built by human hands in ways that modern science still cannot explain. How did humans transport tens of tons of stone blocks over steep mountain slopes, fitting them together so perfectly that not even a knife blade could penetrate them? And what's even more amazing, these structures still stand, defying earthquakes, wind, and the oblivion of history. The Andes are also home to a number of terrifying geological phenomena. Earthquakes that can flatten entire cities in minutes. Dormant but always smoldering volcanoes, avalanches, landslides, hailstorms, all of which remind us that this place is not for the faint of heart. But in the midst of this harshness, the beauty of the Andes becomes surreal. When the first light of day touches the snow-capped peaks, the entire mountain range glows like a mythical painting, where the boundary between dream and reality melts in the morning mist. And if you think humans have it all figured out in the Andes, look no further than the Nazca Desert, where the giant lines are only visible from the air. They are the shapes of birds, monkeys, and humans, carved into the earth by clearing away the dark rock to reveal the lighter soil underneath. But who drew them? For whom? And why are they only fully visible from the sky? Are these lines messages to an entity watching over us from above, as the Incas believed? The Andes is a mountain range, but more than that, it is a living memory. A place where rocks not only form mountains, but also walls, temples, and petrified prayers. A place where the wind not only blows, but also carries the echoes of departed souls. A place where every step you take is not only imprinted on the ground, but also imprinted on an unfinished story of this planet. And if there is one place on Earth that makes one feel the smallest, that makes the heart tremble with awe and emotion, it is the Andes. Not because of the height, but because of the depth of its history and the majestic silence of its rocks. The Andes does not need you to understand. It only needs you to bow your head, like a humble traveler standing before the door to the world's oldest memory. 10. Euphephondum, a giant bird-shaped rock scar in the heart of Utah. Tucked away in Canyonlands National Park, Utah, where the sky and earth merge into a sea of scorched red desert, lies a rock formation that defies all definitions of nature. From above, it resembles a giant bird spreading its wings amid a fractured earth, with concentric rings of rock spreading out like the aftershocks of an ancient explosion. It is Euphephondum, a scar on the earth, or perhaps the footprint of a visitor from outer space. Euphephondum is more than 5 kilometers in diameter and about 300 meters high. It is unlike any other geological formation. The giant rings surrounding the central core are arranged in a way that does not follow any natural laws. Scientists have debated for decades about the origin of this strange structure. One theory is that deep underground is an ancient salt mass that has been compressed over millions of years, and that pressure pushed the rock up, creating a shape that resembles a bird spreading its wings. But there is another theory, more widely believed, and that Euphephondum is the result of a meteorite impact more than 60 million years ago. An object from outer space, on its endless journey, crashed into Earth with unimaginable speed and energy. The impact created a large crater. Over time, the edges of the crater collapsed, while the center was pushed up, forming the rocky rings we see today. This concentric structure is the usual evidence of extraterrestrial impact craters. Whatever the origin, Euphephondum remains an unsolved mystery. Standing in the heart of the stone circle, you feel something different, as if you are standing not just in a geographical location, but in a message carved into the planet for an era we do not know. As the sun rises, the light filters through the layers of rock, revealing the circles like giant fingerprints on the surface of the earth. And as night falls, The stars fill the Utah sky, and you find yourself straddling two dimensions. The pristine stone circle beneath you, the infinite universe above you. You are at the center of a crossroads between the celestial and the terrestrial, between ancient time and the tiny present. Euphiefundum is more than a rock. It is an open question. It is a page in the journal of Earth, left half closed. It is the unhealed scar of a planet once touched by something beyond understanding. And when you leave, even if you take no rock with you, you leave with something changed. That we, as thinking creatures, are still just groping in the great story that Earth and the cosmos have yet to tell.